All right, everybody, welcome all of you to the current affairs session. Also, do not leave. Towards the end of this session, I'm going to also give you a view of how are you going to operate your dashboard. Some people were facing some difficulties in terms of how to operate, etc. So we're going to do that towards the end. But before that, let me quickly introduce, the host for tonight. Sonal ma'am is here with us. She has been a part of Postcat Prep for the last 6 seasons, has been helping students with a lot of mock PIs, all these very, very important sessions. So welcome, ma'am. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Sudhanshu sir. Doing good. Thank you so much for asking. Some of you already know me. For the rest, I'll just introduce myself. Shout outs, yes. We'll do that. So, I'm Sonal, and I'm an alumnus of IIM Lucknow 2019 batch. Have been helping students with VARC as well as GDPI for about 6 years now. And I think these 6 years have been fantabulous. And I am really happy with the scores that you have achieved in VRC section in particular in, to 24. So I'm all excited to start with GDPI. I'm all excited to take a lot of interviews and kind of help you with GD plus, other aspects, current affairs, then HR questions, etc. So all good, Sudhanshu sir. Um, let's start the session now.
Absolutely. That is one camera that I have not been able to switch on. Maybe the students will get it towards this season. Okay, perfect. So let's get started. And very quickly, to begin with, Sonal ma'am, I'd quickly ask you how important do you feel current affairs is during your preparation days, also during your interviews. If you remember, some of the instances where current affairs was had come in handy and helped you out in your interview experiences as well.
Yeah, I think a very important part of the interview preparation. And if I talk about my experiences in particular, I think IIM Kozhikode basically surprised me. So they asked me a lot of things which I was not expecting. For example, मैंने कोझिकोड का इतना रिसर्च नहीं किया था इन पर्टिकुलर कि कोझिकोड एज अ सिटी कैसा है, वहाँ का वेदर कैसा है, टेम्परेचर थ्रू आउट ईयर कैसा रहता है, देन डांस फॉर्म वहाँ पे कौन सा फेमस है. So they asked me all these things. Now I prepared about my city, my state, then about obviously myself, the current affairs, the institute. I'm Kozhikode in particular, but I didn't read much about the city. So basically that kind of surprised me. And I think अब तक जितने भी मैं इंटरव्यूज मैंने कंडक्ट किए हैं, in each and every interview I suggest that please read a bit about the city as well. जहाँ पे आपका इंस्टीट्यूट है, apart from reading about the institute, about the mission, about the vision, about the values, please read a bit about the city also. So I think that kind of surprised me, Sudhanshu sir. I would, I think, ask you also the same thing. Anything surprising that you might have faced during your time?
Yes, so that is one question that I've been asking, almost all the people in their interviews. I was really surprised by a very simple question, and that was, in fact, I am Bangalore was a lot of geopolitical questions, right? So it was a host of geopolitical questions. But if I talk about some of the key elements, from GK and current affairs, one key element that was asked to me in one of the interviews was the name of the governor, correct? So of my state. तो जनरली क्या होता है कि चीफ मिनिस्टर तो अपने को पता होता है, पर गवर्नर हम उतना ज्यादा सोचते ही नहीं है कि यार ये कौन पढ़ रहा है. So I think they can really surprise you. And how many of you would know the governors of your states? Think about it. करेक्ट, वो इंस्टेंटली आ जाता है एंड देन यू आर लाइक टेकन अबैक कि बॉस ये क्या हो गया, ये क्या पूछ लिया. एंड देन यू आर ऑल्सो अ लिटिल एम्बैरेस्ड कि यू डू नॉट नो द गवर्नर फॉर योर स्टेट. Okay, you are absolutely not just taken aback but a little ashamed also at the same time. Correct. So I think that was one experience. The other experience that I have had from current affairs was uh, there was one discussion in, I think I am Shillong. I think I am Shillong, which was regarding the currency exchange and what was the currency exchange rates going on at that point in time. So one thing which I realize is that most of these GK and current affairs, questions are also drawn from what we speak. Right. So I remember mentioning something about the news that I had read that day, that rupee went a little cheaper and dollar went stronger against rupee. So then they asked me, what is the currency exchange? See, that's the disadvantage of reading news in bits and pieces, because they'll ask you questions like following up on that as well. Okay, so what is the currency exchange? So I had read कि rupee has weakened, but मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि currency exchange rate क्या चल रहा है. So that was again something that had happened. So I think bits and pieces of all our learnings, good things and bad things, that we are going to do through this session as well, and we are going to help you out with all the key elements that we have to prepare as far as current affairs is concerned. So ma'am, again, let me pass it on to you. We'll keep passing the parcel.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key elements that you believe should be studied as part of the current affairs bit?
Yeah, sure. So, I think there are three dimensions to it. First one is definitely the current affairs, day-to-day news, what is happening. Second is knowing yourself, and third is knowing about the program, the institute, right? I'll talk about the first dimension, current affairs in particular, right? Within that, first of all, I'll suggest that you please go through the ambient litmus news refresher. We have been sharing the refresher on a daily basis. वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आप डेली उसके गो थ्रू करो. ऐसा नहीं कि जमा कर रहे हैं वीकेंड पे बैठेंगे थोड़ा तो टाइम निकालेंगे या फिर ट्रैवल करते वक्त बस ऊपर ऊपर से देख लिया. नो, यू सिट एंड यू गो थ्रू दैट पर्टिकुलर रिफ्रेशर. एंड आपको लग रहा है कि किसी टॉपिक की डिटेल में जाने का जरूरत है, देन व्हाट टू डू अबाउट दैट, आई टॉक अबाउट दैट ऑल्सो. बट फर्स्ट थिंग फर्स्ट, प्लीज गो थ्रू द रिफ्रेशर. Second is newspapers, right? You can go through newspapers also. I'll suggest The Hindu, a good newspaper. Then Indian Express, you can pick that also. Business Standard, in case you want to go, into the depth of business news in particular. So you can pick either of these newspapers. Now, if I talk about topics in particular, that what topics should be stressed upon, economy definitely, business news definitely, national affairs plus global affairs, national plus international, and finally environment and science. All in all, these are the topics that should be focused upon. उसके अलावा भी पढ़ सकते हो obviously. Then ये तो हो गया डे टू डे न्यूज का, क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा. सेकंड इज what has happened in last 6 to 12 months. You should know about that too. For that we'll be sharing boosters with you. एंड सेकंड, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि एक पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक की डिटेल्स में जाना है, मे बी अभी जो चल रहा है या फिर लास्ट 6 to 12 months में जो हुआ है, फर्स्ट will be making some detailed videos जो particularly जो अपना जो टॉपिक्स है, इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स है उस पर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल बजट पे हमेशा अपना एक डिटेल डिस्कशन होता है. उसके अलावा आपको लग रहा है कि कुछ आपके गो थ्रू करना है, देन स्टडी आईक्यू करके देयर इज दिस यूट्यूब चैनल. वो भी अच्छा चैनल है. यू कैन गो थ्रू द कंटेंट, राइट? एक पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक उठा के आप वहां से देख सकते हो. सो दैट्स अबाउट इट. दैट्स अबाउट करंट अफेयर्स. ऑल इन ऑल, रिफ्रेशर के गो थ्रू करते रहो डे टू डे न्यूज के लिए. सेकंड, 6 to 12 months के लिए बूस्टर के गो थ्रू करो. डिटेल में जाने के लिए स्टडी आईक्यू से कर सकते हो. वी विल ऑल्सो बी डिस्कसिंग ऑल द इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स दैट आर देयर. टॉपिक्स का हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कि क्या क्या स्ट्रेस अपोन करना चाहिए, राइट? नाउ if I talk about the second part of it, knowing yourself, right? जहाँ पे बेसिकली रिसर्च करना है, उन डायमेंशंस का मैं बात कर रही हूँ. करंट अफेयर्स का मैंने बात किया. नाउ आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट knowing yourself. उसमें you need to know about your city, you need to know about your state. अभी सुधांशु सर से कह रहे थे, राइट? द गवर्नर, द चीफ मिनिस्टर, उसके अलावा भी क्या क्या मिनिस्ट्री में कौन कौन है, इंपॉर्टेंट रोल्स क्या है, अभी मेजर कुछ चेंज हुआ है तो यू शुड रीड अबाउट ऑल दीज. इलेक्शन अगर हो रहा है, डेफिनेटली आपको समझना चाहिए कि क्या चल रहा है क्या नहीं चल रहा. एंड when you are going through these news articles, or maybe when you are let's say talking, you are reading a bit about your state, about the elections that are going to happen or that are happening, you please form an opinion. ऐसा नहीं कि बैठ के फैक्ट्स का रट्टे मार रहे हैं कि ये चल रहा है वो चल रहा है, इतना इतना सीट्स हैं. नो, you form an opinion. The interviewers basically expect you to respond in the form of a conversation, right, wherein you are able to kind of articulate the information, and it's very logical. Even को वही करना है ना, क्योंकि आपके पास इवन व्हेन यू आर वर्किंग एज अ वर्किंग व्हेन यू आर वर्किंग आफ्टर योर एमबीए, राइट, एज अ वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल बेसिकली यू विल हैव अ प्लेथोरा ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन। ये फैक्ट है, वो फैक्ट है, पूरा एक केस स्टडी है। आपको क्या करना है, आपको पूरा पढ़ना है और अपना ओपिनियन स्टेट करना होता है इवेंचुअली, राइट, मे बी टीम में, मीटिंग में, मैनेजर से। सो यू नीड टू फॉर्म एन ओपिनियन। फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स पे नहीं लेके बैठना है, वो आपको सपोर्ट करने के लिए डेफिनेटली चलेगा, बट इवेंचुअली you walk on making an opinion. Okay. And now I think the third part of it, knowing your program and institute. Basically, you know your college, you know the values, the mission statement, the vision, and the notable alumni maybe. And again, I'll say this, अभी हम कोई कोड का बात कर रहे थे, know about that city also, know about that state also, कि क्या है exactly. They want to see if you are really interested in taking admission in that particular college or not, या फिर ऊपर ऊपर से चलो दे देता इंटरव्यू, ऐसे ही एक्सपीरियंस के लिए जा रहे हैं, right? So very important that you know about the college, the city, the state, the alumni base. Okay. I think that's about it. And last point, always remember you cannot know anything and everything. It's impossible to remember each and every detail. So the interviewers are not expecting you to know anything and everything. They basically expect you to handle the unknown cleverly and with honesty. That's it. So you do your best and rest. जो नहीं आता है, you deal with that with very honest, with honesty. So I think that's it. Sudhanshu said that's what I can gather, I can think of as of now. Please add on to it if you think I have missed anything.
So yeah, so I was just drafting that. So primarily, absolutely agree with you. So these are the three key dimensions that we are to focus upon. So one dimension is obviously the current affairs. So what is happening at a daily level. So remember, what is very important is how many of you already following Litmus News? Many of you had already been following Litmus News. So I'm hoping that you are doing that already, and you are doing that at a daily level. So that's something which is very very important. So if you've not started that, please start it, because remember, you are every day that you are not doing it, you are accumulating a lot of things, right? So a couple of months later, let's say February you have your interview, तो तेरा दिसंबर का पूरा तुम accumulate कर लेगा और जनवरी तुम पूरा accumulate कर लेगा, ठीक है? So do not do that. Daily अपना पढ़ते रहो and start making notes also. It's a good exercise because a lot of places you might have to write it also. तो जरूरी नहीं है कि सिर्फ बोलना ही पड़े, लिखना भी पड़ सकता है, स्पेशली इन वैट्स ऑल्सो यू गेट समटाइम्स करंट अफेयर्स एज key topics, right? So that is also an important element. So start making notes at a daily level, that what is happening, what are some of the key stories, correct? In terms of the second important element, so let's say we talk about what has happened before this. So let's say for example November, what has happened before November. For that, we will be sharing approximately 8 to 10 current affairs boosters. All you have to do is just go through the boosters. It will give you a good understanding of what are some of the key elements that have happened, before, let's say, November, in the last 6 to 8 months. Obviously, it will give you a good idea about the key elements that have happened. But obviously, to build your opinion and make very strong opinions, you should do your own research also. Remember, your depth of understanding is something which really impresses the interviewer, correct? Most of the people who know current affairs know it in a very shallow manner. Okay, they'll know at the surface only. That is a good starting point, but obviously if you can go a little deeper, understand the nuances, and also, as ma'am also mentioned, try to build opinions also. That's something which is very important. So they are looking at opinions, they're not looking at facts as such. मतलब अगर फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे मान लो कि इन्फ्लेशन का नंबर 6.36 है, आप 6.2 भी बोल दोगे या 6 भी बोल दोगे तो कोई बहुत ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता है। लेकिन अगर आप लेट्स से आपको ये पता ही नहीं है कि इन्फ्लेशन होता क्या है, पर आप इन्फ्लेशन का नंबर जानते हो, that is actually a bad thing to happen for you. So आपको पता ही नहीं है, but आप नंबर याद करके बैठे हो, that is something which is there. Madhav, we will have a separate session on VAT. Okay, VAT is written ability test. How to take care of VAT, how to structure a VAT. We will have a separate session on VAT wherein we will discuss that element in detail. For now, let us focus and bring our attention to current affairs. Okay. So that's the first dimension, which is the current affairs element. So these two, daily news refreshers and boosters, that is something which is bare minimum. उतना तो करना ही है, उससे कम तो आपको करना ही नहीं है. दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली बेयर मिनिमम. उसके बियॉन्ड आपकी श्रद्धा है. ठीक है, आप उसके बियॉन्ड आप और न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना चाहते हैं, डिटेल में जाना चाहते हैं, दैट इज समथिंग विच इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी important. Also we will have the weekly current affairs sessions amongst all the important elements that we'll keep going along, so that we are also discussing the key elements, and we are sort of brushing up what we are learning every week in a classroom setup, wherein we'll all interact and we'll talk about key topics. Okay, so that's something which we are going to drive at a weekly level. Okay. Talking a little bit more about the second dimension, for example, ma'am mentioned about the city, the state, right? All of that. Shritik is saying ki, can you give an example as to how to express an opinion for a news? So Shritik, for example, let's say they ask you, what is your take on the G20? करेक्ट. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन G20? तो आप उसमें ये नहीं बता सकते हो कि G20 ये अब इतने तारीख को हुआ था, ठीक है, इसमें ये स्टेट्स पार्टिसिपेट करे, ये कंट्रीज पार्टिसिपेट करे. आप यू विल नीड टू डिस्कस अ लिटिल बिट मोर एज टू व्हाट वर द की एलिमेंट्स दैट वर डिस्कस्ड, राइट? So basically getting a little deeper. And do you think it was productive? I believe that it was a productive discussion. Okay, because these important elements were discussed, and these elements are also very progressive in nature. Correct. So I'm hoping that part is there. Editorials you can go through, Anushka, but as I mentioned, over and above what we are doing, you can try out a few other things also, but make sure that the bare minimum, the elements that we are providing, those are to be covered by all of us. And over and above, obviously we can get into editorials also. We can look at magazines, we can look at some of the key YouTube channels also, right? So that is something which we can do. Okay. What things to note while reading specifically, CAF? Again, the key important elements, for example, एक बार तो पढ़ना शुरू करोगे ना, तो स्टोरीज अपने आप फिर कनेक्ट होने लगेंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जैसे लेट मी टेक एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ GDP. ओके, सो लेट अस से दैट यू रेड that let's say the projected growth rate of GDP is let's say 7%. करेक्ट. तो उसके बाद एक फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन दिमाग में आना चाहिए कि 7% तो ग्रोथ रेट है, तो GDP का कुछ नंबर भी होगा. ठीक है ना? तो फॉर एग्जांपल, लेट्स से लास्ट ईयर इट वाज लेट्स से 296 लाख करोड़, 296 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. तो अगर 7% का हम उस पर ग्रोथ मारेंगे तो इस साल का कितना आ जाएगा? अच्छा, ये हमने समझ लिया. ये 7% ग्रोथ, इज इट गुड और बैड? कैफ, सही, अच्छी बात है कि बुरी बात है? करेक्ट. अच्छा, लास्ट ईयर अगर 8.2% था, इस साल 7% है, तो ये अच्छी बात है कि बुरी बात? सो you would last economic session also, if you were attending that, remember we talked about normative and positive. Correct. So to every element there is positive and normative. You have to understand the normative part. Correct. And you have to prepare from that standpoint. Correct. Coming to the second dimension, which is again, do we need to make notes of editorials too? Ashutosh, very simple. ठीक है, सबसे पहले start with the daily news refreshers and the boosters. ठीक है, उतना करने में ही तुम्हें समझ में आ जाएगा. ठीक है, उसके बाद तुम एडिटोरियल्स का भी नोट्स बनाओगे. मतलब जनरली ऐसा ही होता है, जब हम प्लान बनाते हैं ना, तो भी हमको लगता है कि अब ये सब बनाने के बाद एक स्वर्ग भी बना ही देंगे. ठीक है ना? जब करना शुरू करते हैं तो पता चलता है कि भाई टाइम लिमिटेड है ना? सो आंसर्स भी ड्राफ्ट करने हैं. ठीक है, वी हैव टू लुक एट द अदर एलिमेंट्स आल्सो. देयर बी अ सेशन ऑन ग्रेजुएशन सब्जेक्ट्स आल्सो, करेक्ट, सब्सीक्वेंटली. सो अ लॉट ऑफ लीवर्स आर टू बी ड्रिवन. तो हमको ऐसा लगता है कि हम सब में बहुत ज्यादा फोड़म फाड़ी मचा देंगे, लेकिन to begin to start doing it. For example, let's say a week you start with let's say the news refreshers and let's say the boosters. लगता है कि ठीक है, एक ठीक ठाक ग्रिप मेरा बनना चालू हो गया है. Then read more, get into depth, understand. A lot of elements will start connecting. For example, what is happening in AI? What is the current news elements in AI? Those news elements will then start connecting. You'll start connecting the dots in your mind, right? So that's something which is again going to be important. Okay. Prabshin is saying, if the GPI is in a week time, then how to go about current affairs? Prabshin, you have known me for quite some time, एंड आई हैव बीन सेइंग दिस फॉर सो मेनी डेज कि रोज न्यूज रिफ्रेशर पढ़ना शुरू करो. हमने न्यूज रिफ्रेशर अभी शेयर करना शुरू थोड़ी किया है, हम तो मार्च से कर रहे हैं. करेक्ट. सो बेसिकली अगर फॉर एग्जांपल एक ही हफ्ते में मेरा न्यूज मेरा इंटरव्यू है, व्हाट आई वुड डू इज आई वुड गो थ्रू द बूस्टर्स. जो बूस्टर्स हैं, बूस्टर्स विल बी शेयर्ड ऑन योर डैशबोर्ड टुनाइट. एटलीस्ट गो थ्रू द बूस्टर्स. बूस्टर्स पढ़ने में तुम्हें बहुत ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा. द ओनली थिंग इज कि तुम्हारा अगर इंटरव्यू सिर्फ एक वीक में है तो तुम उसके डेप्थ में बहुत ज्यादा नहीं जा पाओगे. ठीक है. ऑल्सो वन मोर इंपॉर्टेंट एलिमेंट दैट यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड इज कि जो इंटरव्यूज बहुत पहले होंगे वो इंटरव्यूज थोड़े से सेफ होंगे, क्योंकि उनमें एक्सपेक्टेशन थोड़ा सा रिलेटिवली कम रहता है. ठीक है. जो जितना ज्यादा डीपर होता जाएगा वहां पे एक्सपेक्टेशन उतना ज्यादा बढ़ता जाएगा. अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो इंटरव्यूज फरवरी में होंगे उसमें बजट भी आएगा. अभी जो इंटरव्यूज होंगे उसमें बजट आएगा. Correct. So that is, there are pros and cons to it, right? So that's something we should do. You can start, getting into the current affairs boosters. That is something which is going to help you. लास्ट बजट जनरली नहीं पूछता है, लेकिन लास्ट बजट हमको पढ़ना चाहिए. ठीक है. और इफेक्टिवली जो हमने इकोनॉमिक्स का सेशन स्टार्ट किया है, दैट इज ऑल्सो फ्रॉम द स्टैंड पॉइंट ऑफ द की गोल इज टू अंडरस्टैंड बजट, राइट. सो वी आर इफेक्टिवली गोइंग थ्रू द थॉट प्रोसेस कि पहले इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ेंगे थोड़ा सा, फिर थोड़ा सा इंडियन इकोनॉमी को समझेंगे, राइट. फिर हम थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमी को समझेंगे, फिर बजट में जाएंगे. बिकॉज बजट प्राइमरीली करता क्या है, वो इकोनॉमी के प्रॉब्लम्स का सोल्यूशन होता है. ठीक है. तभी आप बोल पाओगे कि ये बजट अच्छा बजट है कि बुरा बजट है. प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं पता है, सोल्यूशन कैसे बताएंगे कि अच्छा है कि बुरा है, राइट. Correct. Harbans, there are a lot of sessions. Stock market is part of the finance session that we do. Comes in a little later. पहले financial statement समझ लो, उसके बाद stock market समझ लो. ठीक है ना. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एबिटा पता नहीं है, ठीक है, और हम बात कर रहे हैं मार्केट मार्केट वैल्यू मार्केट कैप. ठीक है. बहुत ज्यादा लंबा डिस्कशन हो जाता है. सो जस्ट स्टेप बाय स्टेप वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. ओके. कमिंग बैक टू द सेकेंड डिमेंशन, अबाउट योर सेल्फ यू हैव टू नो. ठीक है. जो एचआर क्वेश्चंस आप ड्राफ्ट कर रहे हो, है ना, जो आपका सेकंड असाइनमेंट है एचआर क्वेश्चंस, उनको ड्राफ्ट करते हुए यू शुड नोट कि बहुत सारे एलिमेंट्स आते हैं. व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट योरसेल्फ, आप बहुत ही फैंसी तरीके से स्टार्ट करते हो कि हाय माय नेम इज सुधांशु, आई एम फ्रॉम रांची विच इज कॉल्ड द सिटी ऑफ वाटरफॉल्स. ओह वाओ, हाउ मेनी वाटरफॉल्स आर देयर? सर ये तो नहीं पता, तो मैंने ऐसे फैंसी तरीके से लिख दिया था. करेक्ट. So remember, that's how the questions get generated. The general affairs which is related to you is very important, because that gets generated of your answers. तो जो भी आंसर तुम बोल रहे हो, ठीक है, अच्छा, which is the, मेरे साथ हुआ था, which is the longest waterfall, which is the highest waterfall. करेक्ट. क्या हाइट है उसकी. ठीक है. विच इज द हाईएस्ट वाटरफॉल इन द कंट्री. अब वाटरफॉल से पूरा का पूरा खेल अब रांची के बाहर आ गया. ठीक है. कि अब पूछ रहा है कि पूरी कंट्री का हाईएस्ट वाटरफॉल बताओ. करेक्ट. सो सो वेन एवर यू टेक पुट अ वर्ड, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि फिर आंखों से वाटरफॉल शुरू हो जाता है. करेक्ट. यू हैव टू देन स्टार्ट एंड थिंक कि भाई इससे क्या क्या रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस बन सकते हैं. उस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस भी आपसे पूछे जाते हैं. जो डिमेंशन 2 है वो भी काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है. डिमेंशन जो 1 है वो बहुत ज्यादा सबको पता होगा जरूरी नहीं है, लेकिन डिमेंशन 2 आपको पता होना चाहिए. दैट इज ऑल्सो एक्सपेक्टेड. अच्छा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स से समबडी, एनीबडी हैविंग वर्क एक्सपीरियंस हियर? Okay, I would really not ask a question right now, knowing that we are yet to prepare. But people from work experience, if there are news related to your company, for example अगर कोई इन्फोसिस से है तो वो से पूछेगा कि क्या आप 70 घंटे काम कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. क्या मूर्ति सर आपसे खुश हैं? करेक्ट. सो है ना. सो डू यू बिलीव इन व्हाट नारायण मूर्ति, मिस्टर नारायण मूर्ति मेंशन्ड अबाउट द यूथ वर्किंग 70 आवर्स अ वीक. करेक्ट. व्हाट्स योर व्यू अबाउट इट? समझ में आया? तो व्यू ओरिएंटेड क्वेश्चंस कैसे बन रहे हैं? दैट्स हाउ द व्यू ओरिएंटेड क्वेश्चंस आर ऑब्टेन्ड. एक और इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन व्हिच आई वांट यू ऑल टू थिंक अबाउट एंड टेल मी इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन. ओके. See, it's very important to do your research. Okay. If you are able to do your research well, you can lead the interview. Okay. You can lead the interview in a direction. For example, let's say you like chess a lot. You mentioned chess. So then they'll ask you about chess. And there are a lot of things happening in, at this point in time, right? You all know about Gukesh, and congratulations to everybody who's part of the country. So one thing which is, again, very important is to lead the interview. Put in elements about yourself that you are confident of. Correct. And prepare accordingly. कि मैंने अगर चेस लिखा है तो वो चेस से रिलेटेड मेरे से क्वेश्चंस पूछेंगे. Correct? So about myself, I need to be absolutely aware. That is the most important element. You mentioned music, okay, right? Prabhasheen, what kind of questions to be asked in psychology? Prabhasheen, साइकोलॉजी के अंदर बहुत सारे अलग अलग टाइप के क्वेश्चंस बन सकते हैं, बट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट एग्जैक्टली हैव यू डन, इफ यू हैव सम एक्सपीरियंसेस इन दैट डोमेन आल्सो. So then that is how it goes. For example, a lot of people who have studied psychology. So psychology, what are the key subjects that you have studied under as part of the psychology? Have you done a master's in psychology?
No, sir, I've not done a master's. I did a BA program. So I had psychology and economics as subjects.
So you would know
Psych
you would know Sigmund Freud.
Yes, sir.
Who is Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud was one of the key founders of the subjects and schools of psychology. And
What is his contribution to psychology?
I'll prepare on that, sir.
Please prepare. So again, अब ये सबसे basic question है, correct? So if you start thinking about it, you will understand a lot of important elements there. Coming back to that second dimension, for example, let's say people with work experience, right? Some news about your company, right? Your Some news about your industry. For example, let's say anybody from EV industry here. So you know that there is so much happening in EV. There are things going on about regulations also. There are things going about the growth prospects of EV, and so much investment going into EV at this point in time, right? So what's your take on that? What's your understanding of it? So that is again something which is important. So what's happening in that segment, right? Okay, so for example, let's say you are from Asal is saying I'm from pharma background. What are the kind of questions that I might get? Are you also from Pune? Okay, if in case you got that, very very good. If you did not get it, no worries. Okay, so आई एम फ्रॉम फार्मा. मैं उतना ही फार्मासिस्ट हूँ जितने आप इंजीनियर हैं. ये कैसी, ये बड़ी गलत बात है. शुड नॉट टॉक अबाउट दैट इन पब्लिक. ठीक है, ये मेरी एक्सपर्टीज नहीं है. Therefore I am out. So now very simple. So coming back, dimension 2 is all about yourself. Okay, and finally the third dimension, which is about the college. Correct. So understanding about the college, understanding the value that the college delivers. For that, you would have seen on our dashboard there is a series of videos about every college. Correct. There are some sessions around some of the colleges. We will be adding to that series as well. Correct. And effectively will help educate you about that college, what's happening in that college in terms of what are the key clubs, committees, what are what's the key differentiators in that college. Otherwise, most people are like, what do you know about that college? Sir, बहुत ही amazing college है. ठीक है, केस बेस्ड पेडागोजी सब में है. केस बेस्ड पेडागोजी. सो इट्स दैट्स नॉट अ डिफरेंशिएटर एनीवेज, राइट? सो बहुत ही अच्छा कॉलेज है, ऐसा रेप्यूटेड कॉलेज. ठीक है, so all of that is not something which is. So again, as ma'am also mentioned, who are the key alums, correct? Okay, who are the notable alumni? And beyond that, again, has what do you know about that college? So that series of video is going to really help you out. And again, we'll complete that series. We'll add the other colleges also to that list. But you can start looking at the series. That series will give you a sense of कि क्या पता करना होता है कॉलेज के बारे में. Yeah. Also start looking at the website. That website is going to give you their website is also going to give you a lot of insights into what are they doing. For example, these colleges do a lot of government projects also. So what government projects they are doing at this point in time, right? They do a lot of research work, correct? Every IM professor or any B school professor does a lot of research work. So what's the pioneering work or key research work that they are doing in that direction? So start looking at that as well. Correct. So those are some of the key elements that are there as far as current affairs is concerned. Okay. I'm hoping that gives you a head start. what we will do is obviously we will start, reading the daily news. You will have the boosters also getting uploaded on your dashboard. So start reading that, start making your notes, and weekly we sit down and we discuss what we have studied in the week. We have studied through the boosters, we have studied through the daily news refreshers, so that we also have that fear of learning or public embarrassment, right? So that's something which I believe might help, did help in the last season. बहुत सारे लोग जो बिल्कुल current affairs नहीं पढ़ रहे थे also studied and did well. Okay. All right. Any questions so far, ma'am? If in case there is anything that I missed out, please feel free to add to this as well.
No, I think good to go. Not exactly a dimension, but sometimes the students are also asked guesstimates plus case studies. So I think we can add half of a dimension.
So if you've actually gone through the first assignment, we've added a small guesstimate there, and I believe that you've all done that as well. So sometimes they ask you a little bit of puzzles also, right? Let me ask you a very interesting puzzle, and you can all tell me how do you go about answering that puzzle. Ready? Okay. So here goes. Let's say there are 9 balls, and all of them look exactly alike. However, there is one ball which is heavier. Okay. So you have a physical balance. So the question is, in how many attempts can you find out the heavier ball for sure? In how many minimum attempts can you find out the heavier ball for sure? That's the question you have. So see, that's how it happens, right? So see, generally you get puzzles if in case you have to remember that. तो वो अगर तुमसे पजल पूछ रहे हैं, मतलब या तो तुमने अपने आंसर्स में कहीं लिखा हुआ है कि तुम बहुत तोड़ प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर हो, ओके, या फिर वो बोर हो गया है, ठीक है. Those are the two scenarios in which they'll ask you the puzzle or puzzle related questions. Okay. So now how many ways can we do it? Okay. All right. Let me anybody who would want to explain it. Anybody who can raise their hand if you want to explain. Okay. Anybody who says one attempt. Okay. People who are closer to God, I'd want to talk to them first. Okay. All right. Let me talk to Anuj. Anuj, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Anuj.
Good evening.
Yeah.
No, I just thought कि like if we are playing on chances, अगर चार balls लेके करें और चारों का ही दोनों ग्रुप्स का इक्वल आ गया तो बची हुई बॉल हैवी हो जाएगी.
नहीं, but you have to find it for sure, no?
For sure, then I guess 3 attempts.
Okay.
तीन नहीं 2 attempts या तीन ग्रुप्स में करेंगे and then
Okay.
जिस ग्रुप का ज्यादा आएगा उसमें से एक एक करेंगे तो पता चल जाएगा.
Perfect. So 2 attempt में हो जाएगा. You got that. You got that, right? Everybody got that?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Anuj, तुमने तो बताया ही है, तो you obviously got that. But asking everybody else got it as well. So you got it right. It can be done in 2 attempts. Okay. It can be done in 2 attempts. How will you do it in 2 attempts? You have, let's say, divided into 3 parts of 3 balls each. Let's say you place part 1 and part 2, and let's say they are equal. So then you know that the third part has a heavier ball. Correct? Now you pick 2 balls there. Either they are equal, so then you know the third ball is the heavier. Or if one side moves down, so then you know that ball is the heavier ball. Correct? So that's how you can do it. I'm hoping that makes sense to you. Correct? Okay. All right. Abhishek, regarding the graduation subjects, we will have a separate session, right? I've informed already, right? So for undergrad, the undergrad subjects, we will do a separate session. Okay. This session is primarily current affairs. Okay. So the 3 dimensions are clear, I'm hoping. Having any questions or queries, please feel free to unmute. Yeah, Harbans, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Sorry. Good evening.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, there's a problem. I want a question. Sir, we are reading news daily, okay? पर सर हम उसको याद कैसे रखें? बिकॉज पुरानी मतलब 2-3 दिन की तो न्यूज याद रहती है, बट यूर सेइंग कि थोड़ा बूस्टर से दोगे. फॉर एग्जांपल हम वीक की न्यूज कैसे याद रखें? मतलब हाउ डू वी मेक नोट्स फॉर न्यूज?
So see, Harbans, the very simple thought process is that early on you will not remember. Okay, once you start reading it, you will not remember in the first day itself. okay, it only starts accumulating after, let's say, a week, 10 days. Once you are continuously doing it, you are making, for example, notes का मतलब क्या है कि let's say जो मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है आज की न्यूज की वो मैंने नोट्स बना लिए, ठीक, correct, what is my understanding, so I have written down that in my own words, correct? So that I have done at a daily level. I'm doing that. What will happen after, let's say a week, 10 days, is some of those elements will follow up, correct? So let's say there was a news in AI, there was a follow-up news on AI. So then okay, what had happened then and now what is happening. And once this happens 3 or 4 times, okay, for example, एक ही certain domain में 3-4 news elements आ गए, तो फिर it will start forming a string, correct? It will start forming a story, and that's the kind of story that you have to develop. Okay, generally the questions are about
Your opinions
your opinions.
about the story.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Let me quickly give you all a brief of how you've all seen the daily news refreshers already, right? It's there. I've shared the link also with you. Let me give you a brief sense of how are the PCP boosters that we will start reading. Let me quickly share that. Tell me if you're able to see the screen. Is everybody able to see? Okay. Some people are able to see, some people are not. Okay. Let me reshare. Just a second. Okay, are you guys able to see this? Okay, so I'm hoping the slides are visible to everybody. Right? Visible, visible, visible. Perfect. सब लोगों को दिख रहा है, बढ़िया है, मस्त. Okay, so what are these boosters? Let me give you a sense of the boosters so that you can start, reading it as well. My background has also changed, right? That's, again, very interesting. Okay, now let me quickly, give you a sense of how this works. Okay, so every booster will have some very important elements of the key things that have happened, the last, 6-8 months. So, for example, let's say the elements that ma'am also mentioned, along that same direction. So environment, then your business affairs, economics, Indian economy, national affairs, Indian polity, correct? So these are some of the important elements where you will have most of the key stories accumulating from, and those form a very important part of your discussion. So on what is happening in terms of your microplastic and environment and pollution, right? So again, about geopolitics, one important element, again, India China and agreement on the line of control, what's happening, what's the dispute, understanding the dispute, what is the current development in that domain, and finally, why is it accumulating news at this point in time, what's happening, again, India Canada, again, around G20 it had started, and what's the current development in terms of what's happening, right? And why is it accumulating a lot of news. Then ASEAN, again, a very important element, what's happening at this point in time, what's the importance in terms of the Indian context, what is the challenges in case of India. And again, Make in India is an important element. I'm sure you all know about Make in India. Make in India completed 10 years, right? So what's what is it about Make in India? For example, let's say people from manufacturing sector, right? So अगर आप manufacturing से हो या production से हो, operations domain के अंदर आपने काम किया है, आप काम करना चाहते हैं, तो again there will be discussion कि भाई Make in India के बारे में जानते हो, what has happened, do you think Make in India was successful, do you think it has been successful so far or not, what all has happened, good or bad in this domain, right? What is the way forward? Again, we talked about economy, right? Indian economy and economics, right? So again, poverty, what's happening, to the people in India, what has, how has it developed, and what has been some of the key developments in this domain from the government side as well, and again, way forward, what's happening, right? So and then some short news which has also been accumulated here, correct? Similarly, this keeps going on. Let me quickly share a few more interesting elements. So similarly, you will have close to 10 boosters coming through, and it will keep coming through and through till the end. Till all the till all the interviews are done. All we have to do is keep reading it. I'm sure once you start getting into it, you will want to know more about it because it gets very interesting, right? And you will even if you do not ask you to do it, you will dig deeper, and trust me, it's going to be a very enriching experience. So once you get into the B school, not only will you have all this understanding, but it will also prepare you for what's going to happen inside the B schools as well, right? Yes, Akash, go ahead please.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Sir, you were telling something about the website, बट क्या आप सिखा देंगे कि कुछ कैसे हम लोग एक्सेस कर सकते हैं उसमें, कैसे कैसे है, तो अगर आप अभी दिखा दे तो।
वो मैं इसको कंप्लीट करने के बाद दिखा दूँ।
डन सर।
All right. So I'm hoping that you all got a sense of what's happening there. Okay, perfect. Now let me quickly give you a sense of the dashboard also. Okay, can you all quickly log into your dashboard? And this is again another booster. For example, what is happening in AI? Correct. What are the key frameworks? What are the key challenges? Regulation of AI. What are the steps being taken to actually regulate AI? Right, at a global level, what is happening, again, what is Quad, similarly important elements in terms of India's role at international level in terms of conflict resolutions, right? Relationship with Singapore, again, geopolitically important element, right? So all of this is something which we have to start learning, start investing time, and I'm sure you'll all sort of get to understand it. Okay, perfect. Just a second. Okay, perfect. So you have all logged into your website as well, your dashboard, right? So perfect. Let me quickly give you a sense of how to utilize it. Okay, how many of you have done the first assignment? The first assignment is an introspection exercise. Primarily helps you understand a little bit about yourself, your own motivations, and it also helps us understand you. It's an exercise which is non-evaluatory in nature, but really gives us a sense of your profile. A lot of people, a lot of mentors who will be going through your profile, and building up an opinion for you, so that they can help you in the subsequent round. So that is the first step for all of us. So that is something which we have to do. All the people who've started, please start with the first assignment. There is, an official email ID mentioned there. Please share it with us there. Okay. Once that is done, okay, you will then move into the second step. Okay, है ना? आकाश क्वेश्चन पूछ के खुद फोन पे लगा हुआ है. Okay, ठीक है. कानून के हाथों से बचना मुश्किल है. Second point. So second point is your HR questions, right? So the second assignment, once you are done with the first assignment, people who have started quickly get done with the first assignment. Second assignment is where you start drafting answers for your interviews. Okay, those are the HR questions. Okay, this week we have done a session on HR Q&A, which was done by Soptic, and that session primarily talked to us about what are some of the key frameworks or the key thought process while we answer these questions, right? So what we have to do is we have to start drafting the second assignment after going through the HR Q&A session, right? Once we are done with that, then what we'll do is we'll connect one-on-one and we will review your answers. Okay, so what you have to do is draft those answers and share it with us. Okay, we would not want to put a deadline to it. Okay, right now primarily because we would want some level of quality there. We not want people की जैसे आप एक दिन पहले एग्जाम की तैयारी करते हैं वैसे ही आप एक दिन में सारा का सारा क्वेश्चंस आप निपटा डालें और उसके बाद फिर we are nowhere, right? So take your time, do well. Remember, if your answers are drafted properly, half the game is sorted for you. Okay, it's half the game. If your answers are drafted well, you have to do it properly. Okay. Madhav is saying, sir, we have sent it. Can we get some kind of confirmation? Madhav, for the first one, you will not. If you have sent the second one, you will get an acknowledgement. Okay. For the second assignment, which is the HR Q&A, you will get an acknowledgement. Okay. For the first one, you will not. For the second one, we have to sit down. For the second one, we have to sit down and we have to review it. Obviously, you will get acknowledgement, right? We'll guide you as to how do we plan these sessions where we will sit down and we'll do the one-on-one reviews. Okay, I'm hoping that everything so far is absolutely clear. Okay, so that's the second assignment. Okay, all right, very interesting. Okay, can somebody tell me what is the deadline for second assignment? मैं भी वही करूंगा जो तुमने किया था. Okay, all right. So for now there is no deadline. We'll need to put a deadline if obviously people take leeway and they're very relaxed but right now we do not want to put it. Primarily we want to ensure quality, but you should do it. Obviously you should start doing it. You should put in your time. It's a time taking exercise, friends. Okay, it's not something which can be done overnight. Okay, so you have to put in time. You have to talk to a lot of people. You have to talk to, let's say, friends. Okay, you have to talk to your family. Okay, and have to put in your head and heart into it. It's a very important exercise. Okay. All right. Okay, so that part is done. Now after that element, after the second element, there are several other sections also. So you will see there is one section on college, correct, which is the third element of our discussion, the third dimension. So for the third dimension, we will have specific videos on all the key colleges so that you can go there and you can do your research. Beyond that, you should do your personal research also. Go to the website of the college and start researching about it. Okay, and start making your understanding about that college as well. Correct. Beyond that, you will see domain sessions. Inside, we have added the economics session. Can you all spot that? Correct. So all the domain sessions, economics, finance, marketing, HR, operations, IT, ठीक है, वो सारे के सारे वहाँ पे added होंगे, ठीक है, including the Rangoli session also. Okay, so all of that is going to be added there, so you can access it there. Okay. Apart from that, anything else which is not clear from the dashboard standpoint at this point, anything which is not clear in terms of the way forward, in terms of, again, there'll be a section called current affairs. Inside current affairs, you will have the boosters that we talked about. Okay, so inside the current affairs section, you will have the boosters which will be added tonight. We wanted to introduce it before we can add it there so that we are all aware as to what is happening. Okay, okay. Any questions so far? Okay, any questions, anything which you believe is not clear, feel free, talk about it. Okay. So Himant, there is the dashboard for postcat prep. If in case you're not able to access the dashboard itself, drop us a text at the helpline and the team will help you out with the with any access issues if in case you are facing. Okay. This was entirely like how it happened with me when I went to an optician for the first time. Okay, that's some scary stuff. Okay, so I went to I went to this optician. I see a lot of people wearing glasses, right? I went to an optician at a point where my my power was already a minus 1.25. Okay, उसके पहले मैं गया ही नहीं. बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे होंगे जो minus 0.25 पे गए होंगे, minus 0.5 पे गए होंगे. मैं minus 1.25 पे गया. ठीक है? And you know how this process is, right? you sit, behind let's say a device, and there is a screen in front of you, and you have to read things, right? Correct? तो उसने स्क्रीन मुझे दिखाया, एंड उसने बोला पढ़ो. ओके, एंड देन आई वाज लाइक कि क्या पढ़ना है? जो पढ़ना है वही नहीं दिख रहा है. ठीक है, मतलब अल्फाबेट्स दिखने की, कुछ लोग बोलते हैं ना कि ये पहली वाली लाइन मुझे दिख रही है, दूसरी लाइन दिख रही है, तीसरी नहीं दिख रही. करेक्ट, मुझे कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है. द इंटायर, कुछ कुछ नथिंग इज विजिबल, है ना? सो आई थिंक that's how some people who are not able to access the dashboard, if in case there is anything regarding that, sharing the helpline contact also with you, please connect with us and get that sorted. Anything which is not clear at this point in time? Okay, so I assume, okay, all right. दीपांशु इज सेइंग कि सर जीके करनी है. दीपांशु, जीके क्या होता है पहले वो बताओ. ठीक है ना? ये पूरा रामायण खत्म हो गया, ये पूछ रहा है कि, है ना, कि अभी सीता जी का स्वयंवर कब होगा? हो गया भाई, स्वयंवर के बाद पूरी कहानी कंप्लीट हो चुकी है. ठीक है, सो बेसिकली करंट अफेयर्स इज जीके. ठीक है, जीके का मतलब ये नहीं है कि तुम बैठ के याद कर रहे हो हिस्ट्री, उतना हमें करना नहीं है. ठीक है, हमें हमें जनरली जो स्टैटिक पार्ट है वो बहुत ज्यादा आता नहीं है. तो अपने बारे में सब पता करो, पिछले 6-8 महीने में क्या हुआ है वो पता करो प्रॉपरली. ठीक है, दैट इज समथिंग विच यूल अंडरस्टैंड. ओके, यहाँ तक सब कुछ क्लियर है? एक बार फटाफट चैट में कंफर्म करेंगे. एनीथिंग विच इज नॉट क्लियर, प्लीज टेल मी. ओके, Akash is saying, sir, I have 21 months work experience. Should I prepare graduation subjects? Akash, we will discuss graduation subjects separately. Okay, we will have a separate session on graduation subjects. Is everything clear so far? ठीक है, तुम बी स्कूल में जाके ना तुम्हें बहुत डीसीपी के मार्क्स मिलेंगे. ठीक, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू नो अबाउट डीसीपी? कितने लोग डीसीपी के बारे में जानते हैं? आप जानते हैं व्हाट्स अ डीसीपी? डीसीपी इज नोन एज डेस्परेट क्लास पार्टिसिपेशन. एक क्लास पार्टिसिपेशन है पर डेस्परेट. ठीक है, उसके ना मार्क्स कट जाते हैं वहां पे, बिकॉज हम तो बता देते हैं कि भाई डीसीपी है. एक्सेल की भाषा में इसको बोलते हैं गैस. ठीक है ना? जो आईएम की भाषा में है डीसीपी, वो एक्सेल की भाषा में होता है गैस. गैस देना इज इफेक्टिवली डूइंग ऑल दी इररिलेवेंट स्टफ. ठीक है, क्लियर है ना? सो आकाश, वी विल डू दैट सेशन ऑल्सो. जो हम स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं वो पहले अच्छे से करते जाओ. ठीक है, बिकॉज वेरी ऑनेस्टली हम जब प्लान बनाने बैठते हैं तो हम सोचते हैं कि पूरा दुनिया जहान आज जीत के ही घर जाएंगे. होता नहीं है. ठीक है, आई हैव बीन वर्किंग सिंस 7 o'clock in the morning. आई स्टिल हैव सो मच पेंडिंग, ओके, टू डू. सो इट विल नॉट हैपन. जो चीजें स्टार्ट होती जा रही है एटलीस्ट उसको स्टार्ट करते जाओ, उसमें भी टाइम लगेगा करने में. ओके, clear है? Anshi saying, sir, will we have sessions on grammar? Yes, it's already happening as part of OMET preparation. So you can prepare that as well. Okay. All right. Perfect. So I think everything is clear so far. So then we'll call it a day. Thank you, ma'am, for valuable time and insights. Thank you, everybody. अश्विनी, इकोनॉमिक्स के जो बेसिक्स हैं वो हमने जो सेशन में किया है वो आपने करा होगा. उसके अलावा आप एनसीईआरटी का जो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स का बुक है वो उठा सकते हैं. एक आई थिंक 11th-12th में आपने मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स का बुक किया था, वो आप कर लो. दैट इज गुड इनफ. ठीक है. Alright, दोस्तों, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. God bless you guys. I'll see you all in the next session. Till we meet again, start working on the elements or the threads that we have started. There are a lot of key elements, so do not delay it. बाद में एकदम sort of सब mix up हो जाएगा. तो थोड़ा थोड़ा करके start करो और धीरे धीरे उसको drive करते हुए चलो. Clear? God bless, guys. Take care. Bye bye.